SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, a critical look. Prime Minister wants an analytical probe into Easter tax. Says the breakdown in forensic services must also be investigated.
I must say that we have to take a critical look at what happened on the day of the Easter bombing.
It will be a dark era. Former Chief Minister Vigneshwaran stands firm on his stance. Says Gotabaya should not be supported by the Tamil community. Decision taken. Proposed UMP-led National Democratic Front to announce their presidential candidate prior to forming the alliance. Muslim Congress to wait until candidate is named. A steady start. Sri Lanka in the driving seat chasing victory target against New Zealand after an opening stand of 133 for no loss. All these stories and much more coming our way this Saturday, the 17th of August 2019.
Nama Lifebuoy Cool Fresh සහ Lemon Fresh Menthol සහ Lemon සාරයෙන් දහදිය කඳ ඇති කරන සැඟවුණු විස බීජ වලින් ආරක්ෂා කර ඔබව ෆ්‍රෙෂ් කරයි. විස බීජ off, fresh එක on.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to First at 9 on AdaDerana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. On your local stories tonight, President Maithripala Sirisena vowed to address issues of long delayed promotions and increase in allowances to the police cadre. The head of state was speaking at an event held in Maradana last evening.
The newly constructed police bachelor quarters complex was declared open by President Maithripala Sirisena in Maradana last evening.
ඔබ දන්නවා රටක් විදියට ගත් විට අපි රජයත් ආර්ථික වශයෙන් හොඳ තැනක නෙවෙයි ඉන්නේ. රජයේ ආර්ථික තත්ත්වය හොඳ නම් මේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න විසඳීම කිසිසේත්ම ප්‍රමාද වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා මේ තත්ත්වයන් අපි සැලකිල්ලට අරගෙන කටයුතු කිරීම අවශ්‍යයි. මට මතකයි පහුගිය දිනවල මාධ්‍ය තුලත් විවේචනයට ලක් වුණා. දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ 15 ශ්‍රේණිවල නිලධාරීන් සමහරවිට හමු වුණාම පෞද්ගලිකවත් කියලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ තමන්ගේ සේවාවේ තිබෙන උසස් වීම, දීමනා, ඒ පහසුකම් පිළිබඳව අපි කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ අනුමත කළා. ඊළඟට භාණ්ඩාගාරයේ තමයි ප්‍රමාදයේ තියෙන්නේ භාණ්ඩාගාරයට සල්ලි නැහැ කියන ප්‍රශ්නය. විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් ඉන්නවා එක අවුරුද්දක කොහොමද මේක දෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒ නිසා අපි පොලිස්පතිතුමත් ආරක්ෂක අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ලේකම්තුමා ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨ පොලිස් නිලධාරී මහතුරු කීප දෙනෙක් අපි සාකච්ඡා කළා. මේක එහෙමනම් කණ්ඩායම් 3කටවත් බෙදලා භාණ්ඩාගාරයෙන් අවස්ථා 3කවත් ඒ මුදල් ලබා ගැනීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙලක් සකස් කරමුයි කියලා. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ කිසිසේත්ම නොසලකා හැරලා නෙවෙයි.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe called for a critical look at the Easter Sunday attacks, including how intelligence information was handled and the breakdown in the forensic services. Speaking at the presidential induction ceremony of the College of Forensic Pathologists of Sri Lanka yesterday, the Premier suggested that observations by the forensic pathologists over Easter attacks be forwarded to the Parliamentary Select Committee for investigation.
I must say that we have to take a critical look at what happened on the day of the Easter bombing. Otherwise, we can never be ready for this type of situation again. That's why to look at why the information came, how it was handled, and this breakdown in the forensic services, and that really requires a critical examination. Your observation should in fact be forwarded to the Parliamentary Select Committee investigating it, because they are looking at so many aspects. Since they are looking at the forensic auditing, I think it's only fair that they should also be given the benefit of looking at the forensic pathology aspects and what has taken place. Because one lesson we have to learn, and what I found was that in our mind we keep associating terrorism with what the LTT did. Certainly the original copyright belongs to the LTT, but there have been far more patents that have been developed by other terrorist groups which goes beyond it, and we have to look at how it keeps evolving, and it keeps evolving very, very rapidly. So this is why I think your observations would be of immense use. But without a critical survey, we cannot say that we have really gone into what has happened and we could take the corrective measures. The whole field of forensic science has today become a part and parcel of the law enforcement system. It has to be incorporated there.
Meanwhile, attending the inauguration of Mahindra's first automotive assembly plant in Sri Lanka, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was of the view that Sri Lankan manufacturing should be export-oriented.
This is a main feature of our government's policies, that we are more and more into manufacturing and also pushing into exports. We have a large market next door in India. We should certainly go ahead, and Sri Lankan manufacturers and exporters have to be assisted to become competitive to take over the market. We have to help them to become competitive by the new machineries, and that's the next plan that I have in mind, to make Sri Lankan manufacturing export-oriented. Similarly, there's a big market in tourism which we must also utilize. And I must thank the Prime Minister of India for the assistance that he has given us. Now there is a framework. It is for us to take advantage of that framework. If you cannot get into the market next door, which is 60 times as large as yours, then you should not be in business. That's all that I could say, looking at the potential that exists.
US-based conflict monitoring and crisis mapping body Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project says that Sri Lanka is among new countries where the Islamic State has found a footing, as its influence has diminished drastically across Iraq and Syria, its territory of origin. The report went on to say that IS has this year regrouped and carried out more activity outside of West Asia than inside it for the first time. A report titled Branching Out Islamic State's Continued Expansion by US-based Conflict Monitoring and Crisis Mapping Body, Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, stated that through the first 5 months this year, the Islamic State has placed unprecedented emphasis on its global operations. Analyzing the video released after 5 years by leader of the Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the monitoring body said that the terror group focused largely on its activity in South Asia, Northwest and Central Asia. Furthermore, they have identified India, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, DR Congo, Burkina Faso, Mali and Libya as new territories where the IS has sprung up and is active. The monitoring body pointed out that nearly 60% of the Islamic State's activity in 2019 has taken place outside of West Asia, mostly across South Asia and Africa. In 2018, its activity outside of West Asia was limited to 45%, while it was well below 20% in 2016 and 2017. Former Chief Minister of Northern Province C.V. Vigneshwaran warns of a dark era for the Tamil community if Gotabaya Rajapaksa is brought to power. Standing firm on his view, the former Chief Minister called the Tamil community not to support the SLPP's presidential candidate.
நீங்கள் கோத்தாபய ராஜபக்சவுக்கு தமிழர்கள் வாக்களிப்பார்களா என்று கேட்கின்றீர்கள். உண்மையான எந்த தமிழனும் அவருக்கு வாக்களிக்க கூடாது. அவருக்கு எதிராக 2-3 வழக்குகளும் இருக்கின்றன. அவர் வருவதால் தமிழ் மக்களுக்கு இருண்ட காலமாக மாறும் என்பது நிச்சயம். ஏனென்றால் அவரை போன்றவர்கள் இந்த இலங்கை சிங்கள பௌத்த நாடு என்ற அந்த எண்ணத்திலே இருக்கும் நபர்கள் அதனை வலியுறுத்துவதற்காக வன்முறையை பாவிக்கக்கூடிய மக்கள் அவர்கள். ஆகவே ஜனநாயக ரீதியாக சிந்திக்கக்கூடியவர்கள் அல்ல அவர்கள். கோத்தாபயுக்கு ஆதரவு தெரிவிங்கள் என்று நான் இது ஒரு நாளும் கூறவும் இல்லை, அவருக்கு ஆதரவு தெரிவிக்கவும் கூடாது என்பதுதான் என்னுடைய கருத்து.
The Mahasangha in the southern province urged SLPP presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa to protect the nation from being divided, to safeguard the Buddha Sasana, re-establish peace among communities and to set up initiative for brain gain. The presidential candidate of Sri Lanka, Podujana Peramuna, was in the south of Sri Lanka today, where he visited several religious places to receive blessings.
Presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Gotabaya Rajapaksa visited the Sri Dhammagiri Giruva Savihara to receive blessings. Gotabaya Rajapaksa then arrived at the D.A. Rajapaksa Memorial in Madamulana. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and parliamentarian Chamal Rajapaksa also joined the occasion.
මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ ගරුතර ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේලාගේ සහ තමුන්නාන්සේලාගේ ආශිර්වාද ලබා ගැනීමටයි අද මේ ස්ථානයට පැමිණි. තමුන්නාන්සේලා මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාට ආධාර කරා වගේම ආශිර්වාද කරා වගේම තමුන්නාන්සේලාගේ ආශිර්වාදය බලාපොරොත්තු වෙමින් ස්තුතියි.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his supporters then arrived at the ancient Mulkirigala Rajamahawihara. An event was also organised at the Beliyatta town to welcome the presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. The next stop of Gotabaya Rajapaksa was Devinuwara Rajamahawihara, where the chief prelate of the temple, Venerable Dr. Devinuwara Sunanda Thera, invoked blessings. They then arrived at the Sri Vishnu Devalaya in Devinuwara. The shrine of Our Lady of Matara was the next destination of the SLPP presidential candidate. Supporters of Gotabaya Rajapaksa was also welcomed at the Matara Bodhi this evening.
අපේ හදවත් තැවෙනවා හැමෝම වේදනාවෙන් ඉන්නේ මේ රට යම් යම් විදිහකින් පාවා දෙන වෙලාවල් වලදී givisum ගහන වෙලාවල් වලදී අපහාස කරන වෙලාවල් වලදී සංඝ ભેදය ඇති කරන වෙලාවල් වලදී ජාතියට ආදරේ නම් ඒක තමයි අපේ බලාපොරොත්තු රට විකුණන එකෙන් නවත්තන්න රට කොල්ල කන දෙයින් නවත්තන්න විදේශීන්ගෙන් මේ රට බේරගන්න සම්බුද්ධ ශාසනය ආරක්ෂා කරන්න අනාගමික රාජ්‍ය නැති කරන්න හැම කෙනෙකුටම නිදහසේ ඉන්න දෙන්න වැඩ කරන මිනිස්සුන්ට වැඩ කරන්න දෙන්න සුදුස්සා තෝරගන්න බුද්ධි ගලණය නවත්තන්න.
Meanwhile, public gathered along roadside in Galle to welcome the SLPP presidential candidate.
The youth wing of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna meanwhile said that they expect to prepare a declaration compiling demands of the youth for the party presidential candidate. Joining Indivriya Matto on our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, the parliamentarian called for responsible youth engagement in the shaping of the country's future.
Where do we go ahead from here? What do we look forward to in this present political scenario?
This administration was mostly voted in by the youth because their mandate was to have good governance and corruption-free governance, which is what they exactly went against. They were promised luxury, they were promised Wi-Fi, they were promised cheap vehicles. In a way, you could say that the youth was fooled by the present administration. Even the youth did not act responsibly at the last elections, because we expect the youth to act more responsibly on how you should select who is going to rule your country.
It's a very new party, but of course patronized by senior politicians. But what are you trying to do?
We expect to prepare a declaration which will be called the Lotus Declaration, and our theme will be Youth for Growth. The theme which we will be carrying out our operation. We expect the new candidate to take this very seriously and include it in his manifesto that he will publish before he runs for presidency.
Well, we have more news on the political arena here on First at 9, but make sure you stay tuned right after this commercial break. Welcome back to the news. Party leaders of the proposed National Democratic Front has reached a decision to announce their presidential candidate before the formation of the alliance. The decision was taken at a meeting today to discuss several topics, amongst which was the constitution of the alliance. Meanwhile, leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Rauf Hakim, told media that his party will decide whom to support once the candidate of the alliance is announced.
The top brass of the proposed National Democratic Front, which is to be led by the United National Party, called a meeting at the residence of Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne this morning. The meeting saw the participation of UNP Deputy Leader Sajith Premadasa, General Secretary Akhila Viraj Karyavasam, Ministers Mangala Samaravira, Navin Disanayaka, Mano Ganesan and several others. Discussions centre on the finalisation of the constitution of the proposed alliance, the date of its formation and the naming of presidential candidate. During the meeting, however, those backing Minister Sajith Premadasa as the presidential candidate voiced their opposition to naming a candidate after the formation of the alliance. As a result, a decision was taken to announce the presidential candidate of the proposed UNP-led alliance prior to its formation. A senior member of the party told AdaDerana that a meeting will be held between UNP MPs and UNP Working Committee to discuss matters relating to the candidate. Speaking at an event in Ambalantota yesterday, however, Minister Sajith Premadasa asserted that he will contest the upcoming presidential election.
තව මාස දෙක තුනකින් රටේ අනාගතයේ තීන්දුව කරන ජනාධිපතිවරණය පැවැත්වෙනවා. විවිධ අය විවිධ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. නමුත් එක දෙයක් පැහැදිලි. මෙදා පාර ජනාධිපතිවරණයට සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස ඉදිරිපත් වෙනවා කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න. ඒක ගැන ආයේ වෙන තර්කයක් විතර්කයක් නැහැ.
Meanwhile, leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Minister Rauf Hakim, said his party will wait until the candidate is announced to decide which group to support. Hakim also said it is important that his party understands clearly the policy pledges of the candidate.
අපි ඉතින් අපේක්ෂකයෝ දැනුම් දෙනකම් බලන් ඉන්නවා. මොකද අපේ පක්ෂය තුලත් ඉදිරිපත් වෙන අපේක්ෂකවරුන්ගේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති පිළිබඳව හරි පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් ලබා ගත යුතු වෙනවා.
Retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne expressed disappointment over the lack of importance the present government gives to national security. He said this addressing the conference dubbed 2020 Challenge held at the AdaDerana Temple in Narayanpeta today.
මේ රටේ ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් හැටියට ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව විනාශ කිරීමේ ව්‍යාපෘතියක් ආරම්භ කරා. දැන් අවුරුදු 4ක් වෙනවා ওই එක බුද්ධියන්ස නිලධාරියෙක්වත් නීතියේ ඉදිරියේ වැරදි කරුවෙකු වෙලා නැහැ.
මතුවෙන සිද්ධියකින් එක යටපත් කිරීමක් මිසක් ඒකට නිසි පිළියමක් දෙන ස්වභාවයක් දක්නට ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක නිසා තමයි මේ රටේ මිනිස්සු පෙළ ගැහුනේ. කොන්ද කෙලින් තියෙන නිසි විසඳුමක් පිළියමක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් මිනිස්සෙක් මේ රටේ නායකයා වෙන්න ඕන කියලා. ඒ තමයි ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මහතා විදියට අඳුනගෙන ඔහුට පෙළ ගැසුනේ.
ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව කියන දේ නැතුව රටක් දියුණු කරන්න නෙමෙයි රටක් ඉස්සරහට යන්න නෙමෙයි රටකට හුස්ම ගන්නවත් බෑ. ඒකට හොඳම සාධකය තමයි අද ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ඇති වෙලා තියෙන තත්ත්වය. රටේ අගමැතිවරයා ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව කියන වචනේ අහලවත් නැහැ. ඔහුගේ මැති ඇමතිවරුනුත් එහෙමයි. ඒ වගේම පත් කළා හිටපු පොලිස්පතිවරයාත් එහෙමයි. ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්වරයාත් එහෙමයි. ගෝඨාභය මහත්මයාගෙන් පස්සේ ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්වරු දැන් 6 වෙනියා ඉන්නේ. ආරක්ෂක ලේකම් පදවිය කියන එක තවත් එක පදවියක් නෙවෙයි කියන එකට හොඳම උදාහරණය කවුද? ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයා. රටේ විශාලතම බුද්ධි ඒකක ඒ කියන්නේ ඉන්ටෙලිජන්ස් ඔපරේටර්ස්ලා වැඩිම ගාණක් ඉන්නේ කාටද? වැඩිම ඉන්ටෙලිජන්ස් රිසෝසස් තියෙන්නේ කාටද? රටේ හමුදාපතිවරයාට. හමුදාපතිවරයා ගාව ඉන්ටෙලිජන්ස් ඔපරේටර්ස්ලා ඉන්නවා 3500කට වැඩිය. මං හමුදාපතිවරයා පාර්ලිමේන්තු තේරීම් කාරක සභාව ඉදිරියට ඇවිල්ලා මොකක්ද කිව්වේ? ඇටැක් එක වුණා කියලා මමත් දැක්කේ වෙබ් එකකින් කියලා. ඉන්ටර්නෙට් එකකින් කියලා.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna today held discussions on forming a new alliance with the joint opposition. Chairman of the SLPP, Professor J.L. Piri, said the drafting of the constitution of this alliance will be done with the consent of all parties included.
ඒකාබද්ධ විපක්ෂයේ සියලුම පක්ෂ එක්කාසු වෙලා සන්ධානයක් ගොඩනැගීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙල තමයි අද සාකච්ඡාවට භාජනය වුණේ. අපි උත්සාහ දරන්නේ සියලුම පක්ෂ එක්කාසු කරගෙන ඒ අයගේ කැමැත්ත අනුව ව්‍යවස්ථාව සකස් කිරීම. සන්ධානයේ ව්‍යවස්ථාව සෑහෙන ප්‍රගතියක් තිබුණා. අපි ආයි එන සතියේ අඟහරුවාදා රැස් වෙලා මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල තවදුරටත් ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාමට සියලුම පක්ෂ තීරණය කළා.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ නැතුව වෙන සන්ධානයක් අද අලුත් නමකින් යන්නේ.
ඔව්. ඒ නම ගැනත් අද
Mexican authorities said federal police found 65 migrants from Sri Lanka and Bangladesh wandering on a highway in the Gulf Coast state of Veracruz. According to authorities, they were severely dehydrated and starved and had to endure a long and difficult journey in an attempt to reach the US border. The migrants had flown from Qatar airport on the 24th of April to Turkey and then to Colombia. They later moved through Ecuador, Panama and Guatemala before reaching Mexico. Upon arrival in Mexico, they traveled by boat through the Coatzacoalcos River to the country's northern border. The migrants are currently placed at a migratory center in the municipality of Acayucan, where their legal status will be defined. After their nationalities are recognized, they will be given assistance to return to their countries. Meanwhile, in business news, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, voiced his disappointment in Sri Lanka's growth trajectory and emphasized the need to instill fiscal discipline within the government. Speaking at an event recently, the governor pointed out that this can only be achieved through the passage of the Monetary Law Act, which will pave way for reforms.
At the moment, though growth is low, the macroeconomic fundamentals are not bad. So things are generally okay, but growth is not enough. What is being done on a sustained basis? One is the government budget, because that is the source of pressure usually. And there are some positive developments. The new Inland Revenue Act was a brave move by the government. In the first half of the year, despite all the problems, collections from the IRA have gone up by 20%. And we need to get the budget deficit down to about 3.5%. We need to increase revenue, which is now about 15%, by 1.5% of GDP, maybe even 2%. The chances of getting good fiscal outcomes on a sustained basis can be improved if the amendments to the Fiscal Management Responsibility Act, which have been passed by Cabinet, actually get through Parliament. The Fiscal Management Responsibility Act lacked teeth, and so now the Act is going to be strengthened, whereby there will be very specific reasons when you could exceed the target. But when there is a breach of the target, the government has to set out the measures it is going to take to get the target back on track. The central bank is going to be given more autonomy if the new Monetary Law Act is passed. Now that's become controversial, but we are still hopeful that it will be passed, because again, it's really more autonomy, more accountability to the public and to the government, because I think this is a landmark reform. Under the new Monetary Law Act, the central bank will not be able to participate in the primary auctions for government securities. So by law, the central bank will be prevented from printing money. Printing money is the worst thing that a central bank can do, and that will enable the government to borrow money and build buffers. So it's crucial that these reforms go through. It's important that our political masters also understand this, that we have very little room to maneuver. Our situation is such that people have to give us large amounts of money for us to remain solvent. Because if you default, and then you get into a Greece-type situation. We are very confident we can manage this situation. I don't want any of you to get panicked. The government has to maintain discipline on the fiscal side. We have to have good monetary policy.
Well, we will now go into a short commercial break, but make sure you stay tuned for international news right after that. The U.S. Justice Department has issued a warrant to seize a detained Iranian oil tanker a day after a judge in Gibraltar ordered it to be released. The Grace 1 supertanker, which is carrying 2.1 meter barrel of oil, was detained on the 4th of July on suspicion of illegally transporting oil to Syria. A last-minute legal attempt by the U.S. to keep the tanker detained was rejected by Gibraltar on Thursday. Iran previously called the detention of Grace 1 an illegal interception. 2 weeks after Grace 1 was detained on 19 July, Iran seized the British-flagged tanker Stena Impero in the Strait of Hormuz. Although Iran claimed the ship was violated international maritime rules, the seizure of the Stena Impero was widely believed to be an act of retaliation. Sudan's ruling military council and civilian opposition alliance have signed a landmark power-sharing deal. The agreement ushers in a new governing council, including both civilians and generals, to pave the way towards elections and civilian rule. Mohammad Hamdan Hemeti Dagolo, widely regarded as Sudan's most powerful man, has pledged to abide by its terms. Sudan has seen pro-democracy protests and repression since long-time ruler Omar al-Bashir was ousted in April. The Prime Ministers of Ethiopia and Egypt and South Sudanese President were among regional leaders attending today's signing ceremony in Khartoum. On today, for chasing a target of 268 runs, Sri Lanka is on the driving seat at stumps with an opening stand of 133 by captain Dimuth Karunaratne and Lahiru Thirimana. Earlier on the day, the visitors could only add 90 to their overnight tally of 195 for 7 as they were bowled out for 285 runs. Karunaratne is on 71, his 23rd Test half-century, when play was stopped early in the final session for bad light with 13 more overs left. Thirimana scored his first half-century in 12 innings and remains unbeaten on 57 with 4 boundaries. And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.